pretty like idyllic. So we grew up in Graver, surrounded by like the kind of Hebridean landscape and the Pairc landscape, and we spent like all our hours in the summer in the sea, swimming and kind of pier jumping and kayaking and just like experiencing it. Like growing up, you were in amongst this like ever-changing landscape, which I think is really interesting. Like going to school, we were in the local school with like 30 other people. It was very small, everybody knew everyone. It was just a really lovely place to grow up. I think when I was a teenager, it was very difficult living in Pairc. There's no buses to get to town on a Saturday to see your friends, and like the island is isolated anyway, but you're even more isolated than the rest of the island because there's that kind of lack of transport and things to do within the kind of teenage community of Pairc. Yeah, it was just kind of, you were just spent your life on your phone, I guess, and kind of trying to get lifts into town to see your friends and stuff like that. So like growing up, even from before I was at school, my mum was working as a potter at that time, or trying to make something of her kind of ceramics, and my uncle was a painter, so I was like surrounded by it. So I was always interested in it. I remember like going to nursery and just wanting to draw the whole time. When I was 15, I went to the Aberdeen art school in North Uist. That was like a phenomenal place. We had a tutor called Mackenzie. She was incredible. She found the kind of the good nugget in every person and brought it out of you. And that's really where I kind of knew that that's what I wanted to do, and like the art was, I don't know, my thing. Painting was my thing. Sculpture was my thing. So yeah, at the moment I'm doing work that is about Hebridean culture, the anthropins, and kind of the synthesis of like culture, how it's being like watered down, and that it's starting to be lost in time, how like Gaelic is starting to be lost in time. It's also about kind of ever-changing landscape and how the environment, like the environmental impact that's going on today, is going to have a massive impact on here. And I'm doing things where I take pigments from the landscape and I turn them into oil paint through like the traditional oil painting kind of processes and stuff like that. So I did a mural on Lanter, I think that might be gone now though, that was it was a landscape, seascape piece with a lantern on it. And that was about how Lanter is kind of like a beacon for the art community like up here. Exhibiting at Lanter has taught me a lot about kind of curating and how to create work together, and how to display work that kind of engages with the audience. I think White Gallery will, in the future, White Gallery will not be so popular anymore. Artwork will become more about going to something that you experience. I think that's quite interesting to view it in that way. Moving to Aberdeen is always exciting. I think every young person up here knows the feeling of kind of going to the mainland to go to university, and you pack all your stuff in a van or a car and you get on the ferry and you go. But I think everyone has that kind of longing for home, like Ceanna Las. I don't know if you know what that is. So that is like, it's a Lewis word, and it has like no real English equivalent, so it means the longing for home. And it kind of also means that like a Lewis person will miss here even in heaven. The landscape and the environment is so much a part of every person that's from and lives here. My mum has always been a great influence. She's very creative, and she has always had the kind of eye for it, you know. So she's always been a big supporter of mine. My uncle, his oil paintings were always like a big influence for me. I loved the smell of walking into his studio and the smell of the oil paints. That was always like a big inspiration for me. But also my sister, she passed away, but she was such a beautiful and like free person. And when I paint, I would like to kind of put a part of her in my paintings, to kind of, don't know, I'm not just painting for myself, but I'm painting for her as well. I think that's probably, yeah, she's probably my biggest inspiration, I guess.